Hello everyone, my name is Jen and welcome to the Book Refuge. And I caved, I did it. After our last live show, which was to celebrate hitting 10K, which I still can't believe is a thing, that there is 10,000 people that at least hit the subscriber button. I'm sure 90% of them are just bots, but whatever, YouTube recognizes you as real. No, I'm just kidding. It's just a thing that's in your head that it's hard to believe it. You know, it's just hard to believe it. So anyway, we're here today with a special edition of Tea Time with Jen, which y'all know I don't do these too often because I don't generally like to get into tea. I like to keep my channel very positive, but I feel like there's a way to do this in a fun and sassy way, which is me. And Books with Samantha started doing these romance hot takes, which I feel like is a little bit like when I would do tea time, where I would ask you guys to give me things to react to, but we're gonna officially put it under romance hot takes. You can see Samantha's video down below, and quite a few of my friends have done it. So what I did is I went up and threw a question card up on my Instagram. And so I have some hot takes we're going to go over. Some of these I have a lot to say about, some of them I don't. But basically I'm going to react to what people's hot takes were. One more thing before we start. This video was voted on by my channel members, Romantic Renegade and Faded Friends, as the video for September that they would like to sponsor. So what that means is that if you signed up at either level of those levels, once a month I let them pick a video they want to sponsor. It's one they want me to prioritize. And I mean, I kind of knew when I put this one in there that it was gonna win, just because it's a video that's popular right now. And again, y'all seem to love my sassy opinions on stuff. So I had taken a bunch of book stickers off and just realized I left them sitting behind me. And it was going to distract me the whole way through if I didn't do that. Anyway, so let's go ahead and dive into these. When I film after work, I have a very finite amount of light. Soon I won't have any light at all. So we're going to try to get through these pretty quickly. So I'm going to start at the beginning, and we'll just go through these, and I'll probably go through all of them, I was going to say, but there may be some that I have more to say about than others. So let's go ahead. Someone just put, the Kimura Chronicles is greater than Born in Blood. I don't know if that's a hot take. I don't know many people who've read all of the books who think that Born in Blood is better than the Kimura Chronicles, so I totally agree with you. I do think that for the Kimura Chronicles to be the best, you do kind of need to read the other ones. Now, I know some people disagree, because I do specifically have some friends who jumped right to the Kimura Chronicles because they heard me talk about them so much, and they did still like them. That's fantastic. That's, you know, they're still wonderful books. I stand by the fact that Twisted Emotions and Twisted Pride are two of my favorite books ever written. And so, yeah, of course they can work. However, part of them being my favorite books was all the history that came beforehand. So that's part of it. But still, when the books are lined up, you know, book by book, the Kimura Chronicles, they hold up. The one thing I will say is that I made a video before about series that fizzled at the end, and I do think that the Kimura Chronicles has my favorite books ever, and it also has some of my least favorite mafia books ever within the same series, whereas the Born in Blood series I feel like is at the consistent good enough level. Does that make sense? The Kimura Chronicles is a very steep high and a very low low for me. So there's a hot take for me. All right. When authors who mainly write plus size romances always exclude diverse male body types, I think that's pretty hypocritical. The double standards are disappointing. Yes. Okay. So I agree with this hot take. I do. What I say in argument to it is this. I feel like a lot of the hypocrisy is from us as women, because I don't necessarily want to read about a guy with dad bod. Sometimes I do. There's a place for him. I don't think every man should have a six-pack abs because that's unrealistic. But also when I'm reading a romance and I'm fantasizing about it, I'm not necessarily thinking about the pooch when we're going to Pound Town, okay? So I'm just being honest. I agree that the double standards could be disappointing. And I would love to see more romances that have, the hefty guys, the more realistic body types, what it was like, because the amount of effort it takes to maintain abs. We're not seeing these people go to the gym 3 hours a day because that's what they need to do. So I agree with your hot take that it can be disappointing, but I'd also say a lot of it comes from who your audience is. And a lot of romance is written for the female gaze. And who do we want to see on our covers? So just think about that. I'm not saying we never want to see the hefty guys, but I just want to say that when we're reading romance, who are we imagining? We want to see ourselves as the heroine, so that's why we want to see good diversity and good, body positivity for her, but we want the men to be the peak of fitness. So I don't think that it's a double standard the authors are doing. I think that's the stories they're writing because that's what people want. So that's me. Also, the term reverse age gap and grump sunshine reveals the stereotypes we have. This is true. I've heard some people be really offended by reverse age gap, and Katie Robert actually made a TikTok saying that, like, just because the woman is older, it doesn't make it a reverse age gap. It's because, if there's an age gap, there's an age gap. It doesn't matter the sex of the person who's older. So I have a hot take that's opposite of this. I like the term reverse age gap or calling it an older woman romance because that tells me what it is. I personally, when it is where the woman is older, I would just say age gap, older woman, or I would say older woman, younger man, and then that would tell you it's age gap. I think it's just a way to shorten the term or what you're saying when you say reverse age gap and people mean, oh, the woman's older. Like, it's a recognition term. I don't think that, it doesn't offend me at all. But then again, I'm not quite at the point where I would be the older woman in the relationship. So, but still, personally, I think when we get annoyed by the reverse age gap thing, it's being picky about shit. Like, does it help you identify what the trope is? Is it a trope you want to read? Then there you go. So that's my, I kind of agree with what you're saying, but also, grump sunshine, I don't think that that's a stereotype. It's a trope. It's how we identify, okay, in this relationship, one of the people is going to be grumpy and the other one is going to be more, happy. So that is a fair take, but also meh. All right. When the heroine distrusts the hero for no good reason, ma'am, you've said you love him, so maybe trust him too. This is a good one, but I don't like this kind of trope anyway. You're right. So I totally agree with this, but I don't know how much of a hot take that is. I just think it's something that authors should stop doing. They can mistrust them up to a point, but if you've already decided you love the person, I feel like you should just maybe ask one question before you fly off the handle. That's the thing that always bugs me, is when a heroine hears something that the hero did from an ex-lover or from maybe even a friend or whatever, and then they immediately assume that that's exactly the truth what this person said, and they break up with the hero because of it. And I'm like, could you check and verify that before you torpedo your relationship? That might be nice, but some authors need that kind of internal conflict as their conflict. They don't know other ways to do it. And that is something that I have a whole other feelings about. It frustrates me a lot when it happens, yes. Diverse books written for diverse sake aren't enjoyable or quality reads. I know who sent this to me, and I 1000% agree with this hot take. I have spoken about it before too. I think that diverse stories should exist, but I have said this over and over again. I do not read a book only for what the diverse thing is. I want to love it because I just want to love it. And I want all authors to write stories that someone can love. I don't have to love them. Like, I don't have to love every story. But I know that it has held me up more than once when the reason the book is pushed on me is because it's diverse. Like, I'm supposed to love it because the author is BIPOC, or because it's a diverse story, or because there's this in it. I feel like I can't genuinely say what my opinion is. It gives me joy untold when I read a story and then discover that I get to support, you know, an author of color or someone who is writing from their lived experience. It's this like beautiful thing where I'm like, wow, I 100,000% love this book, and it's by someone from a marginalized community. But when I'm told, like, you should read this, the author's Black, or you should read this, the author's gay, and I'm like, okay, but what story did they write? What did they write? I want to know. It's never a reason that deters me from a book, but it is when the only reason I see it hyped is because of the diversity behind it. But that's my personal opinion. I feel like then I can't be honest, and I'm always honest about things on here. You know, it's why I was very nervous to read Kennedy Ryan, because I didn't understand how great her books were. And all I heard her talked about was during, you know, like, oh, you should read her because it's diverse. So then I was like, okay, well, what about the story? Like, what am I... Then I read a story and I was like, oh my God, this author is blowing my mind. But it wasn't explained good enough to me, the other reasons yet. So that's just how I feel. So, I read books based on the cover. Where's the lie? Where's the lie? There is no lie to this. I buy books based off the cover all the damn time. All the damn time. There's no lie here. Straight up cinnamon roll heroes are boring. I prefer alpha mellows. Also, I agree. There's another one that goes with this in here. Let me find it because I'm going to read it with it. Someone else also said, I'm tired of reading the perfect feminist heroes that are virgin, give perfect orgasms, and are cinnamon. Well, I agree that they should give good orgasms because we're reading a fantasy. Let's just be honest. I agree with this a lot of the times. I'm pretty boring when a hero does everything right. And I feel like in traditionally published books with a feminist bent, the heroes are always perfect. It's one of the reasons, yeah, I love Mafia. I love alphas. I even love some alpha holes sometimes. Some of my friends don't, but I tend to like them. They can't be alpha holes the whole time, but I tend to like that. So yeah, alpha mellow is usually where it's at for me. It's funny, I just finished The Legacy today, which is like the epilogue, not like the epilogue bind up from Elle Kennedy, and I feel like a lot of her hockey boys are like alpha mellows. Like, they very much just love their women so much, but they're very like laid back, but in the bedroom we're like, I'm the boss here. And I love that. So I agree. They can get pretty boring. Oh yeah, okay, well this one isn't even a hot take, but I love that it keeps getting brought up because I will die on this hill. It's not a romance if the hero or heroine die at the end, and HEA is a must-have. At this point, I don't think this is a hot take. It goes through waves, though, and that's the thing I'll bring up, is that I've been reading romance almost exclusively for about 2 years now. That's what's been happening. And this comes in waves. You know, like, it happens on Booktube where we had to kind of, you know, as RomanceTube has evolved and like grown over the past year, we've had to remind people which ones are women's fiction and which ones are fiction with romance elements and what romance means. And now, like with TikTok coming up, we have people recommending some books as romances where we have to be like, no, that is like a YA book with romance, or that is a fantasy with romance, or this is a romantic fantasy. Like, there's a difference. And so I don't think that it is a hot take, but it is true and something that I will happily continue to remind people of in case they have forgotten. Reverse harem isn't romantic to many people. It's just erotica. This person who said this, I agree with this so much. Okay. So y'all who've been around for a while, you know, like, I've tried the reverse harem route, and I still have, like, I am not completely closed off to it, but I have quickly discovered what my limits for reverse harem are. I actually am going to be reading some reverse harems in October, because they are paranormal, and I'm going to try to read some more spookier paranormal books in October. But I agree with this because my rule for me personally, for any romance, whether it's 2s, 3s, 4, however many, is that every person in the relationship, in the throuple, in the polyamorous situation, needs to be essential to the happiness of everyone in the relationship. Okay? So what does that mean? We're going to talk about this. So for me, whether we're, 2, 3, 4, however many we're going, we all need to be important. It's why I like there to be MMF, MMM, however it is, I need everyone to be important, because if they're not, then it does feel like erotica to me, which I don't mind, but I would like it to be classified as that. An example for me is that my most favorite menages are when, like, we just each need each other. And if you took away one side of the triangle, one side of the triad, that the other two couldn't continue as a couple without the third person, because they would be missing an essential piece. So when we have a reverse harem and we now have, let's say 3 guys and the girl, if all the men are only about the woman, I'm not interested. I'm just not. I need most of the men to either have a pre-existing relationship or grow to love each other as well. I need us to all be sharing our sexual experiences, also sharing our lives outside of the bedroom. I need everyone to be together. And so some of the reverse harems that have 5, 6, 7 guys, or, I was talking with a friend yesterday about the Queen Takes Knights, the Vampire Queen. Literally, those are just blood orgies happening all the time. Which, again, it's erotic, it's pretty hot, but you can't even remember everyone's names, let alone fit all the body parts together. Okay? I'm just saying. So, yeah, that is where it is for me. I know why other people like reverse harem, and again, no shaming, I don't begrudge it, but for me, I've learned that I kind of like my harem to be maxed out at like 3 guys, and I need there to be male-male interactions and them to also love each other, and I need the woman to have individual and group relationships with everybody. So it's a high expectation I have for my reverse harems, and I've only read 2 that fully did that. Others, it's all about the girl, and I'm bored. Like, everyone deserves equal giving and taking, if you know what I mean. Okay? Okay. No one forces you to read a romance book that has triggers. So, that is a hot take. That is a hot take. And then they also said, so don't get mad if it's something you don't like. Okay, so this is a hot take, and I see it from 2 sides, and here's the 2 sides I'm coming at it from. One, I agree with this if the book tells you what the triggers are and you are able to easily find them, okay? Also, I believe that you as a reader should, to the best of your ability, know your triggers. As you come across maybe a new one for you, you should clock that and know, oh wow, I was very disturbed by this that happened. That wasn't pleasant. It made me have dark thoughts. It wouldn't leave me for a few days. Maybe I shouldn't read a book that has those elements again, okay? It is not up to an author to write a perfectly neat and tidy book for you, or even be able to list every trigger, because guess what? Maybe an author doesn't know what even some triggers are. You know, like I hear about new ones all the time. So that's why for me, I feel like reviews are so important. I'm not someone who, I don't always list a lot of triggers. I usually only list ones that are my own because that's what sticks out to me, or some that I'm blatantly aware of because I'm like, oh yeah, this will be a thing for someone. But if you're someone that multiple times when you've read different books, you get hit with, you know, that whatever a trigger is like for you, if it sends you into bad behavior or whatever, if you know that when you're reading a book and that were to pop up, it would do that to you, I'm sorry, not sorry. You need to do some research on the front end of a book, okay? I do believe that an author in this day and age, to the best of their ability, should have a warning page or a author's note, because it does like sometimes flag you on Instagram if you put trigger warning in there. Or if the author doesn't, but you see a book that looks dark, head over to the Goodreads and look for someone who's listed triggers. I will tell you, any dark book I've ever read, I see the main triggers. There are times where I've read a book where my triggers weren't in there, because a lot of what my triggers are not dark things. I get triggered by kind of everyday things. And I don't even say trigger by. I just will be like, oh, that hurt or something. But anyway, long diatribe. I agree with this in that no one forces you to read the book. That is what the hot take was, is that if you are aware of the triggers going into it and you know that it's your trigger and you still choose it, and then you get triggered and then you write an angry review because you got triggered, I agree with this statement. If you know what your triggers are, you were warned about them, and you still chose to read it and then you were pissed, well, that's not the author's fault or any reviewer's fault. It's yours. It is personal responsibility. If you know it's going to hurt you, you've been warned that it has the things that can hurt you, well, then you made a bad choice. But I do think that to the best of their abilities, authors should warn us what's in there, and then the rest is on you. So there you go. I feel like that's not a hot take, but someone said it, so here we go. Ooh, here's one I don't agree with. Here we go. I get bored after the couple gets together if there's not still good conflict to work through. I am one, and I said this so many times because I understand where it comes from, where like if an author piques the tension too early, then you're like, well, what am I doing here for? I totally get it. But I like to see people happy for a while. I like if people can get together and maybe there's still some emotional things to wrap up, but we get to see them be together. I love a long epilogue. As I just said, I just read The Legacy. I loved getting to go back and revisit characters. I love that stuff, but I definitely know what you mean. Narration is an art form, should be appreciated at one time as intended. Oh, wow. Okay. I 1000% disagree with this. I totally do. I cannot even imagine listening to something at one time speed again. It would just feel like someone was clawing my brain out with a dull knife. Like, it would be torture. I don't listen to anything below 1.75. I don't go above 2 usually, but my brain just reads way too fast. I would never finish a book. I read a book a day on audio because I speed it up. And I can't think of any of my fellow booktubers who do that slow. I mean, I'm not saying you can't, because yeah, I was at one time speed. Sure, that's how it was recorded, but I don't know. I've been reading books faster on audio for 4 years now, and I can't imagine doing it the other way. And I still am in awe of the narrator's skill without having to listen to it at one time speed. So sorry, I disagree with this a lot. And it's hot takes. It's hot takes, but that one is, oof, no. I disagree most heartily. I don't mind cheating. This way it makes me think and test my morals and like what I do in that situation. This is a hot take. However, it's not as hot a take as you would think, because obviously there are a lot of books that have cheating in it. I've heard some of my friends who don't mind cheating in their books say too, it's a way to like see it happen where it's not actually hurting someone. It's like a fictional scenario working out, but cheating to me is too real, and it happens way too easily in real life, and I don't want it anywhere near my romance. I immediately find it almost impossible to forgive someone if they cheat willingly and thoughtfully without being under the influence or forced to. It's almost impossible for me. Like, I can't. But that is a hot take / not as hot as you think. And then the last one I'll end with, which this is sweet. One of my friends said this, and also I'll tell you about it. Too many romances end with the marriage and 2.5 kid epilogue. Give me couples who stay unmarried and live happily ever after with their 2 dogs, 3 cats, and hamster instead. Well, my friend, that is a hot take, and I also don't agree. I know that it can be a happy for now if they're not like engaged or kids in the epilogue, but that's what I want to see. I want to see them conclude all the craziness of the book, and then I want an epilogue that is preferably a year or 2 later. Like, sometimes there'll be epilogues that are like 2 weeks later, and I'm like, why? Usually that's in a series where we're going to see other characters in the book, so they don't want to skip ahead too far, you know? But nope, I need my epilogues, because for me that's the like, and they lived happily ever after. Like, that's literally the HEA for me, is people getting married and having babies. But I'm a traditional woman, and that's how I feel. But that's a great hot take, because yep, you sure can have a happily ever after with your dogs and your cats. Like, that is true. That is true. I just would like to see their kids. They can have dogs and cats too. All right, we made our way through these. That went a little faster than I thought, but I think the part of this about being late to the party is that a lot of my friends, you know, we've had some of the same questions asked of us. So I've actually thought about a lot of these questions already, you know. Oops. So, you know, I've had a chance to think about them quite a bit. So anyway, thank you so much for watching. Thank you to all my friends who sent me hot takes. This was so much fun. And yeah, thank you so much for your time. I put up new videos 3 to 4 times a week, and you can watch some more of them right now. Bye!